Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the ESS Liberty and looked out at the broken ships floating in space. Metal pieces drifted past the window like dead leaves in autumn wind. Some pieces were small, others were as big as buildings. All of them had once been human warships, proud and strong. Now they were nothing but scrap metal and memories. The Liberty was the last one left. The last human warship still working in this part of space. Jake could feel the weight of that truth pressing down on his shoulders, like a heavy coat he could not take off. "Commander, we're getting nothing from Earth," said Lisa Morgan from her station behind him. She was the ship's science officer. A smart woman with tired eyes. No signals, no messages, nothing at all. Jake nodded, but did not turn around. He had expected this news, but it still hit him like a punch to the gut. Earth had been silent for 3 days now. 3 long days without a single word from home. "What about the colonies?" he asked. Lisa checked her screens again. Her fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease. "New Mars went dark yesterday. Alpha Centauri stopped transmitting 6 hours ago. Commander, I think we might be the only ones left." The bridge fell quiet, except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Jake could hear his crew breathing behind him. 23 people, all that remained of the once mighty Earth defense fleet in this sector. 23 souls floating in the darkness between stars, wondering if their home world still existed. Jake thought about his wife Emma back on Earth. She worked as a teacher in Denver, helping kids learn about the stars. He wondered if she was still alive, still looking up at the night sky and thinking about him. He wondered if there was still a Denver to teach in. The war had been going badly for 3 years. The Zephyrans had come from the deep parts of space with ships bigger than cities and weapons that could crack planets in half. They moved from system to system like a plague, taking what they wanted and destroying what they did not need. Humans had fought back, of course. They always did. But the aliens were too strong, too many, too advanced. Every battle ended the same way, with human ships burning and alien fleets moving on to the next target. "Sir, I'm picking up something," said Bobby Clark from the navigation station. He was young, maybe 25, with the kind of eager face that made Jake remember what hope looked like. "It's faint, but there's definitely something out there." Jake walked over to Bobby's station and looked at the display. Green dots moved across the screen like fireflies in a jar. "How many?" "Hard to say, sir. The readings are strange. But I count at least 50 ships, maybe more." 50 ships. Jake felt his heart sink. The Liberty had 6 working weapons and half power to the shields. Against 50 alien warships, they might last 5 minutes if they were lucky. "Are they coming this way?" Jake asked. Bobby checked his instruments again. "No, sir. They seem to be heading toward Earth." Earth. Jake closed his eyes and tried not to think about what 50 alien ships could do to his home world. Emma's face appeared in his mind, smiling the way she did when he came home from long missions. He pushed the image away. He had to focus on his ship and his crew. "Lisa, what's our status?" he asked. "We have enough fuel for maybe 2 weeks of normal operations," she replied. "Food and water for about the same. The jump drive is working, but barely. One more long-distance jump might burn it out completely." Jake nodded. The jump drive was their only way to travel between star systems quickly. Without it, they would be stuck wherever they were, crawling through space at normal speeds that would take years to reach anywhere useful. Options? He asked the room. "We could try to follow the alien fleet," suggested Bobby. "Maybe help defend Earth." "With what?" asked Pete Williams, the weapons officer. He was an older man with gray hair and scars on his hands from working with ship guns his whole life. "We've got 6 pulse cannons and a handful of missiles." Those aliens have weapons that can blow up moons. We could try to reach one of the outer colonies, said Lisa. Maybe find other survivors. Or we could hide, said Bobby quietly. Find some empty system and wait for this to be over. Jake looked at each of his crew members. They were good people, all of them. They had followed him through 3 years of losing battles and watching friends die. They deserved better than this. The aliens are heading for Earth, he said finally. That means people are still alive there, still fighting. We can't abandon them. Sir, with respect, what can we do? Asked Pete. We're one ship against an entire alien fleet. Jake thought about that. Pete was right, of course. One ship could not win a war. But maybe one ship could make a difference in some other way. We follow them, Jake decided. Stay far back, stay hidden. We watch and wait for a chance to help. And if no chance comes, asked Lisa. Jake looked out the window at the floating wreckage again. Somewhere in that metal graveyard were the remains of the ESS Houston, where his brother David had served, and the S Atlanta, where his old friend Mike had been captain. Good ships, good people, all gone. Then we make our own chance, he said. The Liberty turned toward Earth and began the long journey home. Jake did not know what they would find when they got there. He did not know if Earth would still exist, or if Emma would still be alive to see him again. But he knew he had to try. Behind them, the wreckage of the human fleet slowly faded into the darkness of space. Ahead of them, 50 alien warships moved toward the heart of human civilization like a sword aimed at the throat of everything Jake had ever loved. The Liberty was just one small ship in the vast emptiness between stars. But sometimes, Jake thought, one ship was enough to change everything. Sometimes, all it took was someone willing to keep fighting when everyone else had given up. The stars watched silently as the last human warship in the sector began its race against time and death. In the distance, Earth waited, not knowing that help was coming, not knowing that 23 people on a damaged ship had chosen hope over despair, action over surrender. The war was not over yet. Fleet Admiral Kethver stood on the command deck of his massive ship and smiled. The Void Render was the largest warship in the Zephyrian fleet, a metal monster the size of a small city. From his position high above the ship's main body, he could see the blue world called Earth spinning slowly below them. It was beautiful, he had to admit. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. The humans had chosen a pretty world to call home. Soon it would belong to the Zephyrian Collective, like all the other worlds they had taken. Status report, Kethver said to his officers. His voice carried the authority of someone who had conquered dozens of star systems and enslaved millions of beings. All ships are in position, Admiral, replied his second-in-command, a tall alien with silver skin and 4 arms. We have the planet completely surrounded. No ships have tried to escape. No weapons have fired at us. Kethver nodded with satisfaction. And the surface? Completely quiet, sir. No military signals, no government communications, no defensive. Systems active. It appears the humans have surrendered without a fight. This surprised Kethver a little. The humans had fought hard on every other world. Even when they knew they could not win, they kept shooting until their guns went silent forever. He had expected Earth to put up the biggest fight of all. Perhaps they finally understand they cannot win, he said. Bring me the human prisoner. 2. Guards brought Captain Ben Rodriguez onto the command deck. Ben had been captured 3 months ago when the humans tried to defend their colony on New Geneva. He was a strong man with dark hair and angry eyes. His uniform was torn and dirty, but he still stood straight like a soldier. Captain Rodriguez, Kethver said through the universal translator device that changed his words into human language. Look at your home world. Do you see any defense ships? Any weapons firing at my fleet? Ben looked out the massive window at Earth below. His face did not show what he was thinking, but Kethver could see pain in the human's eyes. Your people have finally accepted the truth, Kethvar continued. The Zephyrian Collective is too strong. We have taken 43 human colonies. We have destroyed your fleets. Now even Earth has given up the fight. You're wrong, Ben said. Quietly. Humans don't give up. Kethver laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Then where are your ships, Captain? Where are your planetary shields? Where are your brave defenders? Ben did not answer. He just kept looking at Earth with those angry, sad eyes. I will tell you where they are, Kethver said. They are dead or hiding like frightened children. Your species talks about courage and honor, but in the end, you bow before superior power just like all the others. The alien admiral walked closer to Ben. Do you know what we found on New Geneva after we took it? We found your people hiding in caves and basements, hoping we would not find them. Some begged for mercy. Some offered to serve us in exchange for their lives. So much for human courage. Ben's hands made fists, but he said nothing. Soon my troops will land on your Earth, Kethvar continued. We will take your cities and your resources. Your people will work for us, or they will die. This is how it has always been. This is how it will always be. Down on Earth's surface, in a deep bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Amy Collins sat in a room lit only by red emergency lights. The bunker was called the Deep Shelter, and it had been built to protect the government if the worst ever happened. Now the worst was happening. Madam President, said General Pete Baker, the alien fleet is in position above us. They'll start landing troops soon. Amy nodded. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her voice was strong. What about Protocol 7? Still active, Mom, replied Admiral Carol White from across the room. Every system on the planet is shut down except for life support and essential military equipment. No radio signals, no television, no internet. 8 billion people sitting in silence. Amy thought about those 8 billion people. In cities and towns and farms all across the world, humans were hiding in basements and shelters and caves. They had no power, no communications, no news from the outside world. All they had was faith that their leaders knew what they were doing. How much longer? Amy asked. 68 hours, ma'am, said General Baker. The weapon needs 3 full days to charge completely. Amy closed her eyes. 3 days felt like 3 years when alien ships were hanging over your planet like swords, ready to fall. Back on the Void Render, Kethver gave orders to begin the landing. Hundreds of smaller ships left the main fleet and headed down toward Earth's surface. Each ship carried troops and equipment to establish control over the planet. Send word to the collective. Kethver told his communications officer, tell them that Earth has fallen. Tell them that the human resistance is broken. Let all species in this part of the galaxy know what happens to those who oppose us. The message went out across space, traveling faster than light to reach the capital worlds of the Zephyrian Collective. Soon every alien in their empire would know that the troublesome humans had finally been defeated. What Kethver did not know was that deep beneath Earth's surface, machines were humming quietly and hidden. Rooms. Strange devices built by human scientists were gathering energy from the planet itself, storing it like water behind a dam. Every hour that passed, the energy grew stronger, and in homes and shelters across Earth, 8 billion humans waited in. Darkness and silence. They did not know exactly what was coming, but they knew their part in it. Stay quiet, stay hidden. Wait for the signal. The aliens thought the silence meant surrender. They were wrong. The silence was preparation for something that had never been tried before, something that would change everything. But for now, Earth remained quiet and dark, while alien ships landed on its surface and alien soldiers began to march through its empty cities. Deep beneath the Pentagon, in a room that did not exist on any official map, Dr. Ryan Thompson checked his instruments for the 100th time that day. The machines around him hummed softly in the darkness, their screens casting blue and green. Light on his tired face, Ryan was one of only 12 people on Earth who knew what Protocol 7 really was. Everyone else thought it was just a way to hide from the aliens by shutting down all the planet's technology. They were wrong. Protocol 7 was much more than that. "Status report, Doctor," said Colonel Danny Price as he entered the secret room. Danny was tall and thin, with the kind of serious face that came from keeping dangerous secrets. "The quantum field generators are at 60% power," Ryan replied, not looking up from his screens. "We need 36 more hours to reach full charge." Danny nodded and looked at the strange machines that filled the room. They looked like nothing he had ever seen before, all curves and spinning parts that seemed to bend light around them. "And you're sure this will work?" Ryan finally looked up. He had been working on this project for 5 years, ever since the first alien attacks began. "I'm sure the science is correct. Whether it will work the way we hope ... he shrugged. "We'll find out soon enough." The idea for Protocol 7 had come to Ryan during the darkest days of the war. Human ships were being destroyed faster than they could be built. Colonies were falling one after another. It was clear that humanity could not win a normal war against the aliens, but Ryan was not a normal kind of scientist. He studied quantum physics, the strange world of tiny particles that made up everything in the universe. He had discovered something that other scientists thought was impossible. "Tell me again how this works," Danny said. "I need to understand it completely before a report to the president." Ryan walked over to a large screen that showed Earth surrounded by a faint blue glow. "Every living thing creates a small quantum field," he explained. "It's very weak, usually too weak to measure. But when billions of living things are in the same place, their fields can add together. Like people singing in a choir," Danny said. "Exactly. One voice is just one voice. But 1,000 voices singing the same note can shake a building." Ryan pointed to the screen. "Earth has 8 billion people on it. If they all create the same quantum pattern at the same time, the combined field becomes incredibly powerful." Danny studied the display. "But how do we get 8 billion people to do the same thing at the same time?" "That's where the silence comes in," Ryan said. "For Protocol 7 to work, every person on Earth has to stop using electronic devices at exactly the same moment. No phones, no computers, no televisions. Nothing that creates electromagnetic signals. The silence was necessary because electronic signals interfered with quantum fields. It was like trying to hear a whisper in a room full of people shouting. The whisper was there, but you could not detect it through all the noise. When the electronic noise stops," Ryan continued, "we can measure and control the quantum fields created by human consciousness. Our machines take those fields and focus them into something much more powerful." Danny was quiet for a long moment. "Doctor, what exactly happens when we fire this weapon?" Ryan looked uncomfortable. "We don't know for certain. The energy release will be enormous, probably enough to disable every alien ship in the solar system. But there might be other effects too." "What kind of effects?" "The quantum fields we're manipulating are connected to human consciousness itself. When we fire the weapon, it might change how human brains work. People might gain new abilities, or they might lose abilities they have now. We just don't know." This was the part that kept Ryan awake at night. They were not just building a weapon. They were conducting an experiment on the entire human race. If it went wrong, they might destroy the very thing they were trying to save. "The president needs to know this," Danny said. "She already does." She approved the project anyway. In another part of the bunker, President Amy Collins sat with her advisors around a metal table. The room was cold and smelled like recycled air. On the table was a single red button connected to wires that disappeared into the wall. "Madam President," said General Pete Baker, "the alien ground forces have landed in major cities around the world. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. They're setting up command posts and starting to search for survivors." Amy nodded. Reports had been coming in all day through their hidden communication channels. The aliens were moving fast, taking control of important buildings and resources. Soon they would start looking for government bunkers like this one. "What about our people?" she asked. "They're holding strong," replied Admiral Carol White. 8 billion people maintaining radio silence for almost 3 days now. It's the largest coordinated effort in human history. Amy thought about those people. Families hiding in basements without power or heat. Children scared and confused, not understanding why they could not watch television or play video games. Old people wondering if they would live to see the end of this nightmare. "Do they know what we're asking them to do?" Amy asked. "No, ma'am," said General Baker. "For security reasons, only essential personnel know about the weapon. Everyone else thinks we're just hiding until help arrives." But help was not coming. There were no secret fleets waiting to rescue Earth. No hidden colonies with powerful weapons. There was only Protocol 7 and 8 billion people sitting in darkness, creating a quantum miracle they did not even know about. 34 hours. Amy said quietly, 34 more hours, and we'll know if this works. Above them, alien soldiers walked through empty human cities, thinking they had won the greatest victory in their empire's history. They had no idea that beneath their feet, humanity was preparing to fight back with a weapon made of pure consciousness and shared will. The countdown continued. Nancy Green sat in her basement in Ohio with her 2 children pressed close to her sides. They had been hiding there for 3 days, eating cold food from cans and drinking bottled water. Outside, she could hear the heavy footsteps of alien soldiers. Walking through her neighborhood, her daughter Lucy was only 8 years old. She kept asking when they could go back upstairs, when the lights would come back on, when this would all be over. Nancy did not know what to tell her. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lucy whispered in the darkness. "I know, baby," Nancy whispered back, "but we have to stay quiet, remember? It's like a game. The quietest family wins." It was not a game, of course. Nancy knew that much. 3 days ago, every television and radio station had broadcast the same message. Emergency Protocol 7 is now active. All citizens must immediately shut down all electronic devices and remain silent. This is not a drill. Your survival and the survival of humanity depends on your cooperation. Then everything had gone dark. Across the country in Los Angeles, Tony Martinez crouched in an abandoned subway tunnel with 30 other people. He was a car mechanic, good with his hands, but not used to hiding from alien invaders. The tunnel smelled bad and was full of rats, but it was the safest place they could find. "How much longer?" asked an old woman named Rose, who sat near him. "I don't know," Tony replied honestly. "The message said to wait for further instructions, so we wait." Above ground, alien soldiers searched the empty city. They moved in groups of 6, their weapons ready, but they found no one to fight. The streets were empty, except for abandoned cars and drifting trash. It was like the entire human population had just vanished. In Nebraska, farmer Helen Davis hid in her storm cellar with her husband Jack and their teenage son Billy. They had enough. Food stored to last a week, maybe 2 if they were careful. Through the small window at ground level, Helen could see the legs of alien soldiers as they walked past her farmhouse. "They're in the house now," Jack whispered. pointing upward as they heard footsteps on the floor above them. Helen held her breath and pulled Billy closer. The aliens were searching room by room, looking for humans to capture. But the storm cellar was well hidden beneath the kitchen floor. As long as they stayed quiet, they would not be found. These scenes played out in millions of places around the world. In London, the Johnson family hid in the basement of their apartment building. In Tokyo, Mr. Tanaka and his elderly mother stayed hidden in a subway maintenance room. In Sydney, the O'Brien family crouched in the crawl space under their house. 8 billion people, all doing the same thing. All staying silent. All waiting for instructions that might never come. On the Void render, Fleet Admiral Kethfer was growing frustrated. His ground forces had taken control of every major city on Earth, but they had found almost no humans. A few thousand here and there, mostly the old and sick who could not hide effectively. But where were the billions of people who were supposed to live on this planet? "Admiral," said his intelligence officer, "our scans show that there should be massive populations in these cities. The infrastructure supports billions of people, but we're finding empty buildings everywhere." "They're hiding," Kethfer growled. "Search every basement, every tunnel, every hole in the ground. Use heat scanners, sound detectors, whatever you need. I want prisoners for questioning." But finding 8 billion people who were all trying very hard not to be found was harder than the aliens had expected. Earth was a big planet with many places to hide. In the deep bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Ryan Thompson watched his instruments as the countdown reached its final hours. The quantum field generators were at 95% power and climbing steadily. "Doctor," said his assistant, Dr. Susan Kelly, "we're detecting some unusual readings from the surface." Ryan looked at her screen. "What kind of readings?" "It looks like—" "I know this sounds crazy, but it looks like the quantum fields around the planet are starting to resonate on their own, without any input from our generators." Ryan stared at the data. This was not supposed to happen. The weapon needed the generators to focus and amplify the quantum fields created by human consciousness. But according to Susan's readings, 8 billion humans thinking the same thoughts at the same time was creating its own resonance effect. "My God," Ryan whispered. "They're doing it by themselves." In the command center nearby, President Amy Collins looked at the clock on the wall. 18 hours remained until the scheduled activation time. In 18 hours, every human on Earth would receive a message through a network of quantum-entangled communication devices hidden around the planet. The message would be simple. At exactly 14:30 GMT, think the word "activate" and humanities. Final weapon will fire. The choice must be unanimous. Every person on Earth must participate, or the weapon will not work. Amy knew that some people would not get the message. Some would be too frightened to participate. Some would refuse to believe it was real. But Protocol 7 had been designed with this in mind. They did not need every single person, just enough to create the critical mass needed for quantum resonance. Still, the more people who participated, the more powerful the weapon would be. Commander Jake Harrison, still aboard the ESS Liberty Far, from Earth, noticed something strange happening to his instruments. The quantum field detectors were showing impossible readings from the direction of Earth. It was as if the planet itself was generating some kind of energy field. "Lisa, are you seeing this?" he asked his science officer. Lisa Morgan looked at her screens and frowned. "Commander, these readings don't make sense. It's like Earth is building up some kind of massive potential energy, but that's impossible." Jake stared at the distant blue dot that was his home world. Something was happening there, something beyond his understanding. All he could do was watch and wait and hope that whatever it was, it would be enough to save them all. The clock kept ticking toward 14:30 GMT. when 8 billion human minds would face the most important choice in their species' history. At exactly 14:30 GMT, 8 billion human minds spoke the same word at the same moment. Activate. Nancy Green whispered it in her basement in Ohio while holding her children. Tony Martinez said it quietly in the subway tunnel in Los Angeles. Helen Davis thought it as hard as she could in her storm cellar in Nebraska. Around the world, in every hiding place and shelter, humans focused their thoughts on that single word. The effect was instant and impossible to describe. A wave of energy exploded outward from Earth, moving faster than light itself. It was not heat or electricity or any kind of force that human science had a name for. It was pure consciousness made real, the combined will of an entire species, focused into a single moment of perfect unity. The wave hit the Zephyrian fleet first. Fleet. Admiral Kethfer was standing on his command deck when it struck. One moment he was watching his forces search the empty human cities below. The next moment he could not move. His body felt heavy, like it was made of stone. His thoughts became slow and confused, as if someone had filled his head with thick mud all around him. His officers stood frozen at their stations. Their four-armed bodies swayed slightly, but they could not speak or give orders, or even understand what was happening to them. On every alien ship orbiting Earth, the same thing occurred. Thousands of Zephyrian soldiers and pilots found themselves unable to think clearly or move normally. Their advanced weapons went silent. Their ship computers stopped responding. Their communications died, but the humans felt something very different. Nancy Green gasped as new thoughts flooded her mind. Suddenly she could sense her neighbors hiding in the houses around her. She could feel their fear and hope and love for their families. It was like being connected to everyone at once, sharing their emotions and memories. "Mommy, what's happening?" Lucy asked, looking up at her mother with wide eyes. Nancy smiled, and for the first time in days, she was not afraid. "Something wonderful, baby. Something that's going to save us all." The change was happening everywhere. Tony Martinez in the subway tunnel found that he could hear the thoughts of the people hiding with him. Not their words, but their feelings and intentions. He knew without being told that the old woman named Rose was thinking about her grandson, who lived in another city. He knew that the man sitting across from him was worried about his dog. Helen Davis discovered that she could somehow see through the walls of her storm cellar. Not with her eyes, but with her mind. She could sense the alien soldiers walking through her house above, could feel their confusion and growing fear as they realized something was terribly wrong. Around the world, humanity was waking up to abilities they had never possessed before. People could communicate without speaking, share knowledge without teaching, and understand each other in ways that had never been possible. Commander Jake Harrison, watching from the ESS Liberty, saw the alien fleet around Earth suddenly go dark. Every ship stopped moving, stopped firing, stopped doing anything at all. They just hung in space like dead metal. "What happened to them?" asked Lisa Morgan, staring at her instruments in amazement. "I don't know," Jake replied. But then something extraordinary happened to him, too. New thoughts began flowing into his mind, thoughts that were not his own. He could sense the crew members behind him, could feel their wonder and joy as they realized the aliens had been defeated. But more than that, he could somehow feel Emma, his wife, back on Earth. Across all the empty space between them, he could sense her presence, her relief, her love. She was alive and safe and thinking about him. "Commander," said Bobby Clark from the navigation station, "I think I know where all the alien ships are without using the sensors. I can just feel them." "Somehow, the ship's computer," added Kelly Wright from the engineering station. "I think I can control it with my thoughts now. I don't need to use the controls anymore." On Earth, President Amy Collins emerged from the deep bunker to find a changed world. The alien soldiers who had been occupying her capital city were retreating to their ships in confusion and panic. They moved slowly, like people walking through water, unable to understand what had happened to them. But Amy understood. She could feel the consciousness of every human on the planet, all connected now in a way that would never be broken. 8 billion minds linked together, sharing strength and knowledge and purpose. She reached out with her newly awakened awareness and found Fleet Admiral Kethvar aboard his massive ship. Speaking directly into his confused mind, she said, "We offered you peace. You chose war. Now you understand why humanity survived when others fell. Not because we are stronger, but because we can become one. We must." Kethvar tried to respond, tried to give orders to his fleet, but his thoughts were too slow and heavy. The humans had done something to him, something that made it impossible to think clearly or act decisively. "Leave our space," Amy continued, her mental voice reaching every alien in the fleet. "Return to your empire and tell them what you learned here. Tell them that humanity cannot be conquered because we are more than the sum of our parts." The Zephyrian fleet began to withdraw. Without clear orders from their commanders, the alien ships automatically activated their retreat protocols and started moving away from Earth. They would return to their empire as defeated and confused. As any army had ever been. Jake Harrison no longer needed his ship to travel between the stars. Like all humans now, he could move through space using only his thoughts, his consciousness no longer bound by the limits of physical matter. He left the Liberty and flew home to Earth, where Emma was waiting for him. Around the galaxy, other species heard the news of humanity's victory. The Zephyrian Collective, the most powerful empire in known space, had been defeated not by superior weapons or larger fleets, but by something no one had thought possible: perfect unity of mind and spirit. Humanity had awakened to its true potential. They were no longer just 8 billion separate individuals struggling to survive in a hostile universe. They were something new, something that had never existed before. A species that could think and act as one while still remaining individuals. War was over. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, and it would be an expansion not of conquest, but of cooperation, teaching other species that consciousness itself could be the greatest weapon of all. Earth turned slowly in space, no longer silent, no longer hiding. 8 billion voices sang together in perfect harmony, and the stars themselves seemed to listen.